All right, welcome to the Weekly Hijack, Once Upon a Time edition.
So we're catching up from last week.
Yeah, sorry we were gone. We were away.
Various places.
This
is episode 15 of season 4, Enter the Dragon.
Yes, catching up. Actually, one of the first episodes of this arc that I kind of actually enjoyed. I mean, the beginning part was kind of weird with Regina having to prove herself to the villains, and it feeling
by basically being hoodlums.
Yeah, it felt like a gang initiation or something. It was kind of dorky, but
after that, it worked pretty well.
Yeah. Well, that and I was reminded of like Disney villains when they've done in like the cartoons, like whenever they've done like there was an old show House of Mouse where a lot of the Disney characters got together, hung out in a club, and it reminded me of just how over top campy the villains were in that. Because like everything they say must be very slow and ominous. But anyway,
got lots of random thoughts here. One I have to say, I enjoy the Dick Tracy Maleficent style.
Yes, she does seem very like Peggy Carter almost, doesn't she?
I think it's nice. I think it's kind of, and I have to say, what they did with Maleficent in the flashback, I thought was a cool thing. That was a nice.
Yeah, it was again the first flashback that has worked in this Queens of Darkness arc thing.
That seemed to work really nicely.
But actually,
more nicely than the other ones.
Yeah, it felt like it actually fit in with the established storyline pretty well, and it also had some new stuff because we had never seen before what had happened to Aurora.
And I thought played better with what was happening in the real world in a nice layered way. And
it wasn't just a like reflection back on what had happened, of what was going on in the storybook.
And you get a lot more like Maleficent has this actual character to her, as opposed to being just she's probably the most well-rounded right now of the three. Yeah,
definitely. And it's interesting, too, seeing her with blonde hair. And I guess that horn thing is really just a headpiece. Because before, when we had seen her on the show, she was, we said before, she was in the whole Angelina Jolie outfit. She had blonde hair and just some horns sticking out. Yeah. So this is sort of an interesting callback to all that. But any other thoughts?
Before we ramble.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, apparently not. Nice bit of tension with the Pinocchio thing. I mean, that was like the first like seriously evil. Wow, they're gonna kidnap and torture a kid. That's dark.
Yeah, exactly. That felt dark, and then so you feel like okay, they're actually bad guys. And then honestly, Gold has this episode started to pull off that like plotting mastermind. Like he's a layer of evil above all these other queens running around because he's like sits there and he plots and does everything very specifically. And he seemed to have kind of just said, you know what? This old stuff where I was half good, I'm done with that. Like, completely. I'm not even pretending anymore.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way. I mean, it's interesting in that Rumpelstiltskin has generally been a lone wolf kind of guy. Yeah. Like, he might have an apprentice now and then, but for the most part, he works independently. So it is interesting to see him having these, kind of working with these army of minions.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that way.
It is. It really is. And it's remarkable that even as bad as he's being, you still feel, kind of sad for him with the whole Belle thing.
With the Belle thing, yeah.
I mean, that's remarkable that he can still pull off that level of pathos with the character. Even despite, if this was Gendo Ikari, he'd be like, the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that any of you know who Gendo Ikari is, but
you should.
Not Disney related at all.
Not remotely. They should bring that into.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to say, just random, because the first 10 minutes is just kind of weird. Like, there's a train in Storybrooke, and it goes, apparently either it just stays inside Storybrooke, it goes in and out of the special
and I didn't understand the game of chicken they were playing with Regina at all. It's like, yeah, we dare you to save us. And I'm like, what? That's not good or bad. That's just common sense.
Exactly. And normally villains are the first to try to save their own skin, so it doesn't prove anything.
Yeah, that seemed to. So the first 10, 15 minutes was like, okay, this is still the kind of shaky stuff. But the more the episode went on, it's like, okay, this is really interesting.
It had layers. It felt like there was actual plot and tension. And kidnapping Pinocchio's like, that's kind of mean.
Yeah.
And Regina's in a very interesting
She's in quite a predicament. And I kind of liked how the writers are sort of backpedaling with Emma. Like all of a sudden her superpower is working. She just hadn't said anything before. Yeah. Ooh.
The superpower is the most chaotic. It's mentioned more when it's not working than when it is. They should have just left it alone way back when. But
You just said, okay, maybe I was wrong.
yeah, exactly.
But, oh well.
And the other thing of interest, we don't know anything yet. And August is back.
Yeah, that was not expected.
No.
I did not expect to see him again ever. But I guess when Gold waves his own dagger, you never know what will happen.
That's one of those, they'll reverse anything in the show. But that one, like, okay, he has his dagger. Sure, why not?
Okay, it's like, I'm curious where you're going with this.
And it feels better than just the, like, now I made this potion 10 years ago just in case this happens sort of deal,
Yeah. Yeah, I can see people calling foul, but at the same time, I'm like, this is interesting.
We'll run with that, yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like they were trying to backpedal stuff. It just didn't like it was planned.
Yeah.
And I'd say the whole scene with Gold as Hook was played very well.
Really nice acting on his part. You could sort of see the Gold in him.
Yeah.
And I mean, not so overtly that he was not Captain Hook, but it was a really good performance.
And we need more Knave. No. And somewhere, during all this happening, there is a baby somewhere.
Yeah.
But
And I guess Snow still manages to teach while she like runs off on errands with David. I'm not sure what the school day is like for.
You know what they should have done? Because every time they have a baby in a show like this, it's just going to show up randomly and then not be there because it's convenient for story. But they really should have had some random Storybrooke character who's like the babysitter constantly. And that would have been cool and funny. And
that's true, yeah. Maybe Jiminy Cricket would.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet he'd be a good babysitter.
Yeah. And they're just fun. I can't remember any of them, but back and forth. Regina gets some of the best quips with people.
The charming softball team with a pirate mascot.
You'd be surprised. You're like, what are you guys doing?
Now here's an interesting question: Had we actually established that Hook and Will actually had a relation like antagonistic?
I don't know. I don't remember anything offhand.
Okay, I mean it's possible. I mean we knew since Hook was actually Gold in that sequence. We know what he was actually upset with Will about. But be interested to find out if Hook actually did have some beef against the Knave before. But I don't remember for sure.
Unrelated, but I thought it was interesting that they pulled the Briar Rose and the Aurora being different people.
Yeah.
And I thought that, at first I'm like, wait, you're going to make them both fall asleep? And then I'm like, okay, this works. But they did that scene. I'm like, oh, that was a nice...
Which I had forgotten that Aurora hadn't ever been referred to as Briar Rose. So that was nice. Again, it fit into the previous continuity pretty well.
I would like to see the timeline because I remember back like in season 2, we're like, wait, how old is so-so? Because... But, Gold's been around a long time. Yeah.
And there was that whole Neverland thing that kind of played with certain people like Hook.
And last week, I think, we were talking about flashbacks. We keep saying, we're going to have to stop this because some of these people don't. I don't know, Regina pulled off her younger self flashbacks pretty well.
Yeah, pretty well. She probably hasn't had a baby.
I don't know.
Since the show out. I mean, she looked maybe a little, but for the most part. And she acted the younger.
So much, but she does a decent job doing the, schoolgirl sort of thing.
Yeah, she really does. Okay, well, I think we got another episode to go here. We're going to just roll right into the next one. Well, we haven't seen it yet, but after a quick break, we'll get into the next episode, Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Dun, dun, dun. I won't try to sing it.
Okay, we're back. Poor Unfortunate Souls.
Yes.
Which was not actually Ursula's victims in this case, but was Ursula herself.
Yes.
And
maybe...
Hook, I suppose, and her dad.
And maybe Pinocchio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Pinocchio had it very rough, or August, I should say, had it very rough this episode. But...
Very awkward
good
prosthetics.
Stuff. Overall, pretty good. I enjoyed this episode a lot.
I think they've hit their stride this season.
Yeah, I mean, it helped. I realized at the preview for next part, one of the big advantages of these last two episodes is they had nothing to do with the Charming's dumb, oh, we shouldn't have done that thing.
But maybe they'll play that well next time. I don't know. But,
yeah, we'll see.
But the interrogation was, you're like, oh no, you actually feel like something real might happen, not just fancy magic going on. I mean, they can reverse it briefly for whatever, but it all plays out well.
I was wondering how they were going to handle torture on Once Upon a Time. Like, they can't get too graphic on this show, so what would they do? And the nose thing was brilliant. I mean, actually, kind of disturbing in a weird way too.
It was. They pulled the whole flashback of the bad guy is actually just like what the good guy's story is in official Disney canon. Ursula's story is largely Ariel.
Yeah.
At least the same.
Lame. I thought that was lame.
You didn't like that? I thought it was really interesting.
I don't know.
It didn't touch your heartstrings.
It seems unoriginal to me.
Well, they have done that several times, and
I mean, that's sort of.
No, which is why I keep thinking it's unoriginal.
But I mean, I don't mind them recycling elements from Disney movies as long as they do it in a creative way. And I felt this. I mean, okay. Admittedly, I thought the first conversation between Ursula and her father, Poseidon, was a little cheesy, kind of on the nose, like father-daughter, kind of. You won't let me do what I want. If you're in my house, you're going to do this.
You're in my ocean.
Yeah, if you're in my ocean.
Give an inch, swim all over you.
It almost felt like it was supposed to be like a spoof. Like, am I supposed to take this seriously?
Well, they do that every once in a while.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact. Did you recognize Poseidon in this?
I knew I should recognize him. I couldn't quite.
I'm pretty sure that's Ernie. I can't think of his last name, but the guy Hudson. I think it's Hudson. He's one of the Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen other stuff as well, but
yeah. I only remember. I wouldn't have recognized. I think I read something about it that he was going to be on Once Upon a Time this season. But
what I thought was interesting was that they were talking about how you can't get your happy ending. Because and now partly because Emma's there, which actually explains the whole. Robin Hood's life is constantly messed up by Emma. It's like Emma gave everyone their happy ending and constantly gives Regina the bad ending.
Oh, that's
by
true.
accident, which is kind of nice continuity.
Yeah, that's true. Maid Marian would be theoretically Robin's happy ending originally. That was interesting.
But it's interesting that Ursula seemed to get her happy ending.
Yeah, well,
so does that work against the theory they're trying to work?
I don't think so though, because I think it made sense with what Ariel said. Which newsflash, Ariel was in this. That was fun. Which she always reminds me. It's not the same actress, but she always makes me think of.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Shoot,
Amy
Adams.
Yeah.
Yes,
another girl that looks like her. Yeah.
Yeah, she resembles. But anyway, Ariel said maybe it was because she did it in the wrong way.
Yeah,
which. I thought that was interesting. It was like, because what eventually brought them together was this kind of reconciliation thing. It wasn't like a deal, sort of like, you do this, I'll do this.
I kind of like the fact, okay, one of these three villains is now a good guy, or gone at least.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that was kind of cool to do it that early.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate that it's like, suddenly, yes, I brought your father back. Here he is. It's like a daytime TV show. You're like, behind the curtain is your father.
And it's all wrapped up very nicely.
It was also fun.
Yeah,
I mean, it was.
It was fun. I mean, and that's the thing. I didn't feel like repackaged. Like, well, I mean, I don't know. It felt different enough, and I think that's the thing. I mean, most storytelling is sort of a reworking of familiar story ideas. But if you could do it in something that feels fresh enough, and this did, perhaps because it was new characters, but again, it fit in pretty well with the flashback continuity, because we had seen Hook use squid ink, in the previous flashback. We didn't know how he got it.
Do we still know he got it?
Yeah, well, I guess not. Well, I guess we knew how. We know how he knew to track it down. At least, I guess that's right. He didn't actually get it at the end. But though
they keep teasing this Emma's going to turn evil thing, which might be cool, but they haven't done anything remotely like that yet, except. Mm-hmm. So I'll be interested to see how they play that.
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of.
It could either be kind of cool or
forced,
because it depends.
Yeah.
Other ideas, views, thoughts from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, Zach's been quiet. Granted, he was half awake when we recorded the first part, but
I don't know. I thought the Ursula thing was kind of lame, and I mean they do all these cheesy, really convenient little things like. Oh, Ariel was there. And there was another one that I was like...
Well, they do often have very convenient magical things.
I thought it was interesting you threw in Arendelle. I mean, that's...
That Elsa shrunk... How would Elsa shrink a bottle? Does she have that sort of magic? Doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I mean, she was trying to learn other kinds of magic.
Now,
maybe.
to fix the shrunken ship, Wonderland magic was a cool idea.
Yeah, they tied in a lot of different once history things in this episode, didn't they? Wonderland.
I can see that. I mean, I guess I just kind of assume weird coincidence is part and parcel of the show at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, I completely understand. Things are just convenient.
I don't know. I just, like, Ursula I guess it just starts to get unbelievable that everybody has these tragedies and they instantly turn to be horrible, evil people. They're not like, oh, he took my voice and now I'm the most powerful creature in the sea. Yeah, I don't know.
That scene was kind of, you can see that was sort of sped up for convenience.
I feel like the whole Ursula story was compressed in an episode. Not bad necessarily, but would have been better spread over, not that it would have worked in the season, but like 2 or 3 episodes where like this started this and then, that was, it does feel compressed.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I had a thought during it. I was like, more happened in this than like 5 episodes in Neverland. They could have done this in 2 episodes instead.
That is true. At the same time, the nice thing about compressing a story down to that, and that is very fairy tale logic. Like you have this one thing that you're very like keenly focused on, and that's like your whole identity. In this case, her voice.
And maybe like Zach's saying, like the Neverland thing is that Once Upon a Time is very inconsistent about doing that. Like sometimes they'll uber compress something, and other times they'll be like drug out for episodes.
Well, and it's weird too sometimes. I think that was the odd thing about the first scene with Ursula and her father, that it felt very modern, whereas some of the other fairy back stuff doesn't feel quite that. Yes, here's the 21st century fairy tale. Yeah. So sometimes they have a hard time balancing that sort of thing.
Other thoughts?
What did Natasha think? You've also been very quiet, and actually everyone else has been. So
the whole Ursula thing, I can't remember how in Ariel's story did they go into her losing her voice or not? Because I couldn't remember, but I thought it was interesting to have Ursula. At first, I thought it was cheesy. I was like, why are they doing Ariel's story for Ursula? But then I thought, well, it's kind of cool then that if Ursula lost her voice, she could be seeking a voice to replace it, through Ariel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they never really touched much on Ariel and Ursula having a.
Well, because the Ursula in that story was actually just Regina in disguise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't remember why.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that because Once Upon a Time has always had this sort of very loose. Sometimes we complain if they get too close to the Disney version, like that's just kind of doing the same thing. In this case, it's kind of a weird new blend.
I was fine with it.
And actually, in the voice thing is actually not made a huge deal of in the Disney movie about Ariel's voice.
Which Disney movie are we talking about?
The Little Mermaid.
Okay.
Well, her losing her voice, not the singing.
Right. The singing. Well, that's what I mean. It's a deal in that it's inconvenient, but that's more of what it's not like. Oh no, I'll never be able to talk again. Like I think that's what made this voice thing so much different in that there was such a primary focus on that.
Because it was just the singing voice.
Yeah, she could talk normally.
You remember
it wouldn't have been as big a deal. I thought if it wasn't some of the blatant copies. As soon as the voice comes out, you hear the they were like exact scenes from Little Mermaid stuff that made me go, wait, this is the exact, I don't know.
It's almost like they didn't put
something in the future, like you said, if they did something where it tied into why she wanted the voice for Little Mermaid, then that would be different. But in this case, it just seemed like a blatant copy.
It didn't strike me that way, but yeah, fair enough.
I'd rather say, because I know we're out of time here, is the reveal that the door is actually a picture is kind of cool.
And that the author is trapped in the book.
Yeah.
That may just appeal to the writers inside of us, but I think that's pretty neat.
But that's because you're like, okay, where's this door? That's a clever answer that works very well in this sort of storybook logic and just fairy tale logic.
Yeah, it's like, where's this guy been? Oh, he's in the book. Okay.
Explains a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I like that. I didn't like that it then gets to tie back to Emma as the savior thing. I was like, we have to keep tying back to this same storyline every time. I just like...
Well, the Emma savior thing, I have again, I've never quite been sold on her as savior after season 1.
I know, it worked in season 1, but why we keep carrying this on?
Because I think they want to make it important and make Emma have
but it just to me seems like we can't just deal with the author and him. This happy end. We have to turn her bad, which ugh. I don't like that idea. We'll see. Maybe they pull it off well.
Yeah. I mean, I do think there's potential for it to be something different because it's not just like, well, here's the thing, you're the savior, and just kind of push her into the role. This is more like, no, this has all been happening because there was a savior person. Although I'm not sure how Emma's presence, but it's interesting that I find the idea that her very presence causes some good endings interesting.
Yeah.
Even if she's not directly responsible for it. I don't know. It could be dumb, it could be interesting, but we'll just have to see. All right, that's enough for this episode of the Weekly Hijack. We'll have a new episode of Derailed Trains of Thought. Our regular podcast will be coming out fairly soon.
It's recorded.
It's recorded. It's actually available on Mixer.com right now.
We had a little technical error about it.
We won't say anything more. But I think we were aiming to have the actual iTunes version on March 31st. Is that
something like that? Yeah, it's managed. Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see. So be on the lookout for that. Meanwhile, this is Tim.
This is Nick.
And everyone else who's half asleep already. So long.
Adios.